Welcome to the next lesson. This is the first lesson for real Shanghai Mathematics Practice Book 1.2. So we have completed 1.1 and now moving on to 1.2. There are, as I've mentioned previously, two books in each year, and this is the second one that we'll be going through. We'll go through the first unit. Again, you will require the book to carry out the tasks and to improve. Just as a recap from the previous lessons, what your child should have picked up and be quite good at is number bonds, um, up to 10, including 10, getting very familiar with number bonds of 10, and also in terms of knowing the symbols of equal, both sides are the same. The gap here is larger, so this is a larger number and smaller number, and again, gap is larger here, so the larger number is here, and smaller number is here. So being very familiar with that. That's essentially what they need to know, and they should be now getting to a stage where they're not requiring their fingers to count and to add. They should be able to know that if the answer is 8 and the number 2 is given, they should already know it's 6 rather than having to count on their fingers how much more is left. So they should be getting at that stage. And if your child is not getting at that stage and struggling with that, then you should be working with them in terms of the number bonds. And some exercises for that, which I believe are quite useful, is to regularly, even if it's just 5 minutes a day or twice a day, go with them and play a game of number bonds. So say, okay, number bonds, we're doing up to 10. So numbers that are at 10, I'll say the first number, you say the next, and make it enjoyable for them. So 3, and they say 7, and so on, and then do the same for the other ones like 8, and for number bonds equal to 8. Okay, so it'll be 2 and then 6. Initially, don't confuse them. Pick one number bond. I'd probably suggest work on 10 the most. When they're comfortable with that, then pick another number and so on and so forth, because they should be getting to a stage where you should not be allowing them to use their fingers to work out the answers. They should be doing it in their head and be familiar with the number bonds. As I say, if they're struggling and needing to use their fingers and there's no other way of doing it, then you need to work with them in terms of the number bonds. In addition to the going through these books, and as I say, again, also in terms of the books themselves, so it's better to do less but frequently, and the same applies with number bonds. And in terms of playing the game, 5 minutes or even a few minutes every day, far better than just doing it every now and then, because the child is likely to forget, and then you're starting from scratch again, and that'll be frustrating both for yourselves and for them. And it will also impact on their confidence, and it's really about confidence, and them doing well and making good progress quickly through the material will help emphasize to them and to yourself that they are doing well, and there's no reason why they should not do well in GCSE mathematics, which is the ultimate goal. So moving on to 1.2, the first unit is a recap. So the title is Revising and Improving, and it only contains 3. Double check. Yeah, it's only contains 3 parts, and the first of those parts is addition and subtraction of numbers up to 20. So these are what's already been done, and it's a recap between that. So question 1, or calculation. And again, your child should be getting familiar with reading the words. Clearly, depending on the English skills, they may struggle with some of the words, but they should be able to read the common words. And some of the words you may need to help them, like answers and quickly in this particular word. But because it's started repetition, they should be getting very familiar with the reading as well. And that's important. If they're struggling with that, then you need to work on the reading as well, because you want them to be as independent as possible. And the aim is really that you can leave them to do the work themselves, and they should be able to make progress themselves. But that's an aim that you should be aiming towards later on, once they are confident and once you can reliably feel that they will actually do the work rather than just play around and not do the work. So that's question 1 there. Includes multiple additions like 6 plus 7 plus 4. Again, reminder, you need to know the number bond. So 6 plus 7, they should be thinking in the head, that's 6 plus 4 plus 3. So that's 3 in the head, that's 13. And then plus 4, that's 17. Again, familiar with 3 plus 4 is 7. So they need to be very familiar with the number bonds. Clearly, perhaps not as quick as I've done it, but that's the aim, and there's no reason why they should not get to that stage with a lot of practice, which they'll get anyway. Main thing is you need to keep an eye on them, that they're not using their fingers, whether that's hidden away or whether that's away from your sight, because that will be a very slow process and probably not very accurate as well. And that's not what we want. We want them to be confident with their number bond so they can do it themselves. And in terms of question 2, look for patterns to help you answer the questions. And again, it should be straightforward in terms of 7 plus 2 and then 17 plus 2. That would be 7 plus 2 is 9, and then 17 plus 2 is just another 10. that's 19, and 7 plus 12, again, looking at patterns which are either way around, it's fine. And if they can't recognize the pattern, I wouldn't worry about that. The point is, the main thing is be able to answer the questions. And if they see any patterns which helps them do it even quicker, that's a bonus, but not a issue in itself. Question 3, write greater than, equal to, or less than in each box. And again, as I mentioned before, they may need to calculate the answers and then write it down. But if it's clear, like if they can tell 11 plus 8 is definitely bigger than 15, then they don't need to calculate it. It's more about getting the answers right. And if they're getting the answers wrong, then it means that they're not ready for that, and they should be making calculations and working their way through there. And then question 4, write these answers in the boxes. So it should be straightforward again. 20, takeaway number equals 15. Again, they should be familiar with that so they can see the relation between numbers. If they're getting confused and they're writing a bigger number than 20, then you need to explain to them. The first step you should think of is that number in the box going to be smaller or greater? So if it's 20 and it's takeaway something, and you're going to get to 15, then obviously the number will have to be a number that is not bigger than 20, as otherwise it won't make sense. And especially at their stage in terms of takeaway, we always have a larger number takeaway a smaller number, because we need to keep the positive numbers. Or if it's the same number, the answer will be 0. That's page 3 there. And then page 4, again, a lot of repetition, which is, I think, very good. You've got, again, these number walls, and as I've mentioned before, start with the ones which are easy. You can't, for example, 5a, you can't start from the top because you don't know the other numbers there. You need 2 numbers to be able to get the third number. So you can do 5 take away 3 equals 2, that can be done. 4 take away 0 equals 4, that can be done. And then one above that can be done. 3 plus 0 is 3, and then once that gives you enough information to do the rest. And again, you should be able to do the other ones as well, 5b and 5c. Again, C, start from the bottom, 1, 2, 1, 2, take away 1 is 1, and so on and so forth, and then build your way up from there. If there's any confusions or there's a question that you're both stuck on in terms of parents and child, then please let me know. I will spend more time going through it, but it feels to me that it should be fairly straightforward, but clearly that might not be true, because I'm fairly comfortable with this material and I've been through it before, so I may be wrong. So moving on to the next section, which is number 2, fun with calculations. So these are, again, things that they should be familiar with. Again, it's about number 1. So 9 plus 8, so it should be 9 plus 1 plus 7 equals then 17. If they need to write it at the top just because they forget, then that's fine. But what is not allowed is, now they should not be using their fingers to be able to do the calculations. You need to phase that out, really. And as I've mentioned before, if they're struggling with that, you need to work on their number ones. 12 take away 6, again 12 take away 2 take away 4, and if we take away 4, then they should write it, when they say take away 4, they should be thinking about the answer as being 6, because 4 and 6 makes 10, and so on and so forth. And then you've got question 2, which is write the missing numbers in the tables. Again, as I mentioned before, addend doesn't, not important. They do not need to know the term addend. All they need to know, be familiar with, is the word sum. Sum means total. It's another word for total. And so 4 plus 8 will be 12. And again, they should be doing it 4 plus 6 plus 2. Or they can do it as 8 plus 4, which is 8 plus 2 plus 2. And when they say 2, they should be thinking about 12. And again, the 12, 19 take away 12. So it needs really a very good exercise to get you to be familiar with the relationship between addition and subtraction. They are related to each other in terms of working out the answers. And then you've got similar in terms of difference. Again, the important word again is difference here. Don't get fixated in minuend and subtrahend, which even I'm not familiar with these terms. So I guess the minuend is the larger number, that, and the subtrahend is the number that you're taking away. Not important. Important is the word difference, because that comes again and again. So when people are generally talking about difference, what's the difference between the 12 and 8? They're usually referring to the subtraction difference in terms of how much more, and we tend to use it more like differences in height, and usually the calculation is then about subtraction, and that's what it's important here. So again, 14, 6, and so you're going to be 14 plus 6 is 20, and so on and so forth. The larger number is at the top of the minuend. Question 3, draw the dots, write the missing numbers. Okay, so again, familiar, they do the first bit, so you should know the answer. So the 7 is 3 plus 4, and the bottom one will be 4 plus 5, and the side one will be 3 plus 5. Okay, so 8 there, and so on and so forth. They've given an example there. And then for the ones where the boxes are empty, just to get you familiar with subtraction. So let's do the right at the end one. So in case of 10 and you got 6 there, the top box will have to be 4 because 6 plus a number means 10. So when that one's done, and you got the bottom one which is 7, so it'll be 6 plus 1 which is 7, and then you got both of those numbers done, and then 1 plus 4 is 5. So the important thing is how you structure these questions in terms of which order you do it in, otherwise you get stuck. And then question 4, which will perhaps be a little bit harder, and use counters. So if you've got counters like coins, similar coins, then they can work out how you would do it. And I'll suggest working out with the 3 first. Where would you clearly there have to be 2 and a 1, but which way around we're going to put it in, particularly given that the adding at the bottom will be 5. And if they get it wrong, it really shouldn't be not a problem. Rub it out and then try the other way, and then it should be straightforward. And then moving on to the last section, which is 3, comparing numbers. The calculations there again should be straightforward. Again, it's about 3 plus 8, so 3 plus 7 plus 1. Get them into that habit. And if the child can do it very quickly, they probably already got a good system. And if they does it very quickly and they're getting it right, that's the aim really. We don't want to restrict people into a particular method, although I think this is the best method and easiest method to do, and so I would suggest this way to do it. But if your child has figured out a different way and they're happy to do it, like they're very good with for example, doubles 9 plus 9 is 18, not a problem. They don't have to do 9 plus 1 plus 8. So it's not about fixating with a particular method, but they should have a method. Otherwise, it will take them a long time to do it. And it's about getting it right and getting it quickly. So instead of doing, for example, 15 take away 8, they should not be using their fingers now to do 15 and then count backwards by 8. That's not the way. Or 8 and then count with their fingers to get to 15. That's not the method now. They should be using number bonds to be able to do it, and it should be quick, not using fingers. And the best way, I believe, is number bonds. So in that case, 15 take with 5, take with 3. And then moving on to question 2, what is the greatest number that can go in the box? So this is the greatest number. So it has to be less than 15. And the greatest number. So the greatest number, the best way to do it is the greatest number less than 15 is what? It's going to be 14. That's the greatest number that it could be. So how do we get to 14? 6 plus what number goes to 14? And so on and so forth. And greatest number can go, okay, fine. And then whatever that number is, it go one less than that in the next one, and one less than that in the one after that. Okay, I see what they're doing for this one. So 2a, it seems like the way they want you to do is trial and error. So put in 6 plus 1 plus 6 plus 2, 6 plus 3, and so on and so forth, so forth. And then you see at the end of it, you get to a number, which in this case will be what, 6 plus 8, and that will give you the answer. And then once you've got that, then you can put the 8 at the top bit for 2a. That's so it'll be 6 plus 8 for 15. And same with the subtraction, you can subtract. It's got to be, so you can do 20 take away 1, take away 2, 20 take away 3, and so forth, so forth. Try all of them and then get there, and then at the bottom you can write the greatest number that can go in there. So they've done it by trial and error rather than the way I initially said, but it's fine. It's more about just practice really. Question 3, write less than, equal to, or greater than in each box. And again, it should be straightforward. Again, if your child recognizes pattern, then they should really be applauded. For example, 9 plus 5, they should know. They might say, well, if you're adding 5, the number's obviously going to be bigger than adding 4 to the same number, and then they just put the symbol down. Absolutely fine. Or 9 plus 5, 5 plus 9, they know it's the same, and they put equal, and they don't have to work it out. That's absolutely fine, and that's great. But some of them, they will need to work it out to be able to do it. Question 4, fill in the greatest number that makes the number sentence true. And again, this is now not by trial. So the greatest number that can go through, they need to look at the 12, or the greatest number that is less than 12 is 11. So 4 plus what number gets to 11? And they should then take it to the number bond. So 4 plus 6, that's 10. How much more do I need? Plus 1 more, so 6 plus 1 is 7, and they should put 7 in there. Again, if your child needs to write it down, not an issue at this stage. But what you don't want is them to be using their fingers. It's a slow process, and they're likely to get it wrong, and they should be moving away from fingers, especially that later on we're going on to numbers up to 100, which is the next unit. And then again, 5a, they're showing 14 take away, so we can do less than 6, so we can do 14 take away large number, so we can do 14 take away 14, 14 take away 14, 14 take away 13, 14, and so on and so forth, until we get to a number which is less than 6. So it'll probably be total will be 5, and then you can find the smallest number that can go in the box is the following. So 14 smallest number. Okay, so why did I mention the smallest number? Let's work this one out. So 14 take away 14 would be 0. That's less than that. Okay, yeah, so the numbers get smaller and smaller. And so the smallest number would be the one you put into 5b. And with that, this lesson is end. Again, please do write some comments, like and subscribe, and share the information, and to be a motivation for me to continue with this. Although I am already quite motivated, as I really do